Through the trials and tribulations, you never let us down, Jesus. I know you're here with us now, Jesus. I know you're still with us now. Keep it real with us now. I wanna feel, show me how. Please let me take your hand, guide me. I walk slow, but stay right beside me.
I want to start out by saying that I do agree with you that God's love is to be experienced through Jesus Christ and is in Jesus, and that's how we are to experience it. However, I disagree that God does not love everyone, and that's basically the point of this video, is to respond to that.
The words God loves everyone or God loves everybody does not occur one single time in any standard version of the Bible. This alone should draw a reasonable amount of suspicion as to whether or not this is actually true. I know
the word Trinity isn't in the Bible, but the concept is there. The word rapture isn't in the Bible, but the concept is there. Jesus never said, I am God, and he never said, I am the Messiah, but the concept's there, and clearly he found himself to be both. Just because something isn't directly stated doesn't mean that the concept isn't in the Bible. And while you did notice that it doesn't say anywhere that he loves everybody, it also doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that he does not love anybody. So nowhere in the Bible does it show that God does not love anybody. Now, God didn't give us a dictionary that we could use to supplement the Bible, so in order to understand the Bible, we have to translate it within its Jewish context. When the Jews say, I love this and I hate that, what it's meant is I prefer this over that. It does not mean that I despise and am disgusted by that, whereas I love and cherish this. What it means is just it's a preference. Like if they say I love chocolate ice cream and they say I hate vanilla ice cream, that doesn't mean that they're not going to eat vanilla ice cream. That just means that if given a chance, they prefer to have chocolate. It may sound kind of silly, but it's true. In fact, in Semitic language and thought, hate does not mean does not love. In fact, in English thought, hate does not mean does not love. There's many people who have family members whom they hate, but they also love that person because that's a family member and they've known them for a very long time. And so hating does not necessarily mean does not love, and it certainly doesn't mean that in Semitic language. God chose Jacob out of preference over Esau because Esau was more wicked. However, the Moabites, which came from Esau, received blessings from God, where he did show later his love for them. So to say that he hates them as in he completely despises them and feels ill will or whatever you want to define it as towards them is simply not true. He preferred Jacob over Esau. Now, if God does not love everybody, this immediately brings up a problem, because if he doesn't love everybody, well then, who does he not love? Well, he would not love sinners. He would not love his enemies, is the way you could put it, whereas he teaches us in Matthew 5:44 to love our enemies. So if we're supposed to love our enemies, but he doesn't, then he's a hypocrite. So immediately by saying that God does not love everybody, you're making him a hypocrite. It is true that John 3:16 can be kind of split into two sections. You got a statement that's set in the past, and then you have a statement that represents the present and the future. You have for God so loved, past, the world that he gave, past, his only son. I assume that would be the incarnation. And just because he loved or expressed his love in the past, and it stated as such, doesn't mean that he stopped loving us or everybody. In fact, if that's the case, that the only way we can experience God's love is through Jesus now, then up until Jesus started doing his ministry, between the loving, which is the incarnation, and the ministry, there's about 30 years or so that God loved nobody at all, and that doesn't make any sense.
God loves everyone. If that was the case, then God would be saying here, I love a person who has no inheritance in my kingdom, is disobedient, and has my wrath coming upon him. How could this be?
Israel was continuously disobedient to God, and he continuously showed his love for them in his grace. Hosea chapter 11 would be a good example of how much he loves Israel. In Proverbs 3:12 it says that whom the Lord loves he disciplines. In Titus 3:4 it says that the salvation through Christ was for mankind. In Romans 5 it says that he loved us while we were sinners, while we were still his enemy, he still loved us. Just because God shows wrath towards a group of people doesn't mean that he does not love them. God is love and He is justice. If you rebel against Him and are disobedient against Him completely, then you're going to fall under justice. However, a good example would be the story of Jonah, whereas God wanted to bring His grace and love to the Ninevites. And Jonah was confused and didn't think that they deserved it, and didn't understand how far God's love and grace goes. And in a way, you're kind of taking the same position that Jonah took here, and not understanding that somebody who should deserve His wrath, God does still love them and wants to rather give His love and grace to them. Now the question is still there: if God is putting His wrath upon a group of people, does He love them? I would say that yes, He still does love them. However, He must satisfy His justice because they were so rebellious against Him that He has to satisfy His justice. That doesn't mean that He doesn't love them. The purpose of the atonement of Christ is to both satisfy His love for mankind and to satisfy His justice for the sin of mankind. Both are in place there, and that there is no reason here to think that He does not love anybody. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that He does not love. It is true that we are to experience God's love through Jesus. Jesus is the very expression of God's love. However, that doesn't mean that if you don't believe in Jesus, God doesn't love you, because God desires that none shall perish, which you said in your own video, and that the second part of John 3:16 says that whosoever believeth. It's a whosoever policy. It's open to everybody. If you do not accept that love, you will fall under the category of justice and you'll feel the wrath. However, that doesn't mean that that love isn't available to everybody, and that means that God loves everyone. If the only way God loves me is if I believe in Jesus, then that would mean that God did not love me most of my life, and I have a hard time agreeing with that. It says in 1 John 4:19, we loved Him because He first loved us. There's a big difference between being able to experience God's love through Jesus and that love being geared or pointed at us or anybody or everybody. God loves everyone. However, if you want to know that love and experience it, well, you can only do that through Jesus, and that's really what that means. I agree with you that if you were to walk up to, say, an atheist and say, God loves you, man, and then just leave it at that, then that would leave a false impression where they think that God loves them just as they are, and they would have no reason to change or accept Jesus. However, to also go up to them and say, God doesn't love you unless you accept Jesus, also is an incorrect message to give, and would lead to confusion as well. The correct message here is God loves you. However, if you do not accept that love and the grace that comes with it, then you will fall under God's wrath and His justice, and that's the correct message to give.